I deliberately put that question on the community section about if you could leave, depending on circumstances, your family, your job, your income, your age, everything that you have to consider when you move somewhere else. I deliberately asked that question because I wanted to see the response. I'm still looking at it. It's boom, 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 they're coming in one after another. Lots of people say in America, for obvious reasons, Donald Trump's elected, but he's only there for 4 years. What happens after that? So I thought I'd go through a few of your choices, because I've probably told you the tale about a woman who cleared off to, I think it was Poland. It was an Eastern European country. I think it was Poland. And she cleared off and they bought little bakers, and that was it. She'd near enough off the grid. They only opened in the morning. It was going to be a new life. A little quiet village, miles from anywhere, but close enough to a big town. And got on with her neighbours. Great life. Loved it. Until one day someone walks in the shop from a gang and says that she has to pay for them to keep a shop secure. This is a village that's never had a burglary in 20 years. And she ended up she was a victim of extortion and had to pay it. And had to pay it even when the baker shop, didn't take the money. Completely ruined what she'd chosen to do. So the reason I'm discussing this, I do see a lot of... my husband gets it. He's absolutely brassed off. It's my husband. He's sick of this country. Absolutely sick of it. And sometimes says if he didn't live with me, he doesn't know what he'd do. Because I keep him going. This is how I think we should approach it, because most people can't go, even if they want to. Circumstances hold them back. The list I gave: family, job, income, healthcare for people my age. If you go somewhere like America, whatever the healthcare is here, at least it's free to access. And as you know, you get a limit on things like cancer treatment in America. So everything has to be taken into consideration. So what I'm going to try and do is, I'm going to try and just basically show you what I do to keep my sanity. So, because I blog all the time, and I obviously get a lot of news from all sorts of different angles, the issues that we're faced with. Sorry I keep clipping, but I have to keep moving my camera because of the daylight, depending on where the sun is. See what I mean? Bloody nightmare. I try and list all the stuff I don't like. I make a list. All the stuff I don't like. The transgender issues with men in women's sports and changing rooms. I list it all down. What's going on with our education system? It's all there. People wanting reparations for things that happened, like slavery 200 years ago. I think what I try to do is list it down, all the stuff that gets your heart pumping, gets you going, how angry you get, the way that the grooming gangs are handled, the shorter sentences that they've got compared to the Glasgow gang, which aren't from the same ethnicity, how much stiffer their sentences. There's so many things. So what I do, I list them down, and then I look next to the list and I say the question, how does it affect me? Well, a grooming gang's not going to affect me because I'm too old to be a victim and I don't live near anywhere that it's going on. The same with sentencing. I'm hardly going to be convicted of anything unless free speech gets really bad. Then I might be sharing a cell with a few other people. So I look down the list and I try and knock off it what doesn't affect me. The things that will affect me is the price of energy and the poll tax going up, which will be horrendous for me. And then you can stifle your anger for the things that you can actually handle and do something about, because we all have power. We have the power to write to our councillors. We have the power to get our neighbours and friends to act. If you're not happy with a hike in your poll tax, knock on your neighbour's door, send them a text and say, look, let's write to our MP. Let's do something. Don't just sit back and be a victim. Do something about it. Especially if you're in a constituency where they've got a low majority, like Wes Streeting, who loves to load it up in front of the public. But really only got in with 540 odd votes. 540 odd votes, and he's a minister lined up to be the next leader of the UK. It's beggars belief. So what you've got to look at is, what can I handle? What can I do something about? Biggest and most powerful thing you can do is wake your mates up. Wake them up. Not about chemtrails and not about the dangers of the rollout. Forget all that. Put it in a box. You need to wake them up with reality problems, because that's the only thing they're capable of fighting. They're not critical thinkers like you. They haven't looked outside the box and seen the view and not liked it. They're busy getting on with their own life, and the only thing that's upset them is the severity of the new Labour government. They didn't expect it to be this bad. They thought they could turn away from politics and all pretty much mosey on down the same road. Well, it's not, is it? So the best thing I think you can do, if you're not in a position to go, and I'll be honest, I could afford to go where I want. I could afford to up sticks and go to America. I would get in, yeah, because I'm not a burden to the state. I would be self-financing. I could go back to France. I've had a place in France. I could go back to Austria. Why am I not doing it? That's a mixed bag of reasons. Age, predominantly for America, because I don't want to be faced with their healthcare costs. And I've got 2 dogs. Dave's got elderly parents. We've all got our criteria. And the other big thing for me, if I'm going to stay and fight, which is what I see myself doing, I think it's bloody hypocritical to fight from overseas. To sit yourself somewhere where you think you're going to be better, then tell everybody else how to behave. I couldn't do that. I'd have to pack up. They talk about something else. I don't know. How to get rid of your verrucas. Who knows? I don't know how to get rid of them. I haven't got one. So I think the strongest thing we can do is wake up your friends and neighbours. Talk to them. They won't be afraid of doing something like voting reform. That's not too out the box, is it? That's not too do. It's not the bloody X-Files, is it? Vote reform, because the Tories aren't really conservatives and Labour are communists. That's it. Just tell them straight. But keep off the other stuff that you're probably aware of or you might be particularly afraid of. And trust me when I say wherever you go, you might get rid of your political problems, but there'll be other obstacles in your way. Even dealing with a health scare in a foreign language is not easy. I had some friends who upsticked to Austria. We toyed about with it. We had a house there. We still had our house here. And I just couldn't make that jump. I just kept thinking, I don't know. I didn't want to be like Dirk Bogart, getting too old to manage and having to come home to die. And then coming back to a country that's unrecognisable and thinking, is this it? At least if I see it unfold and I can maybe tweak a few changes, I can have a bit of an effect. And you can. And we are having an effect. That's the thing that everybody's missing. We are having an effect. It's taking shape right now. So we fight on. But this couple, they went to Austria, sold up the lot, went. And he loved it, absolutely loved it. It was as bad as I was. I'd wear lederhosen if I could get away with it. I'd have a bloody alpine bell on my neck. I'm that hooked on Austria. I think it's a wonderful place. But they were hardcore during the lockdowns, and that's put me right off. Because they would be, Alison Ordnung, please give me your arm. Not a chance, Sunbeam. So everywhere has its drawbacks. Never see, the grass is always greener with a foreign country, definitely. And this couple I told you about, who stayed out there, been out there 10 years alongside me. We were out there, but we came home. We'd have like 6 or 8 weeks there, then come home, then another 6 or 8 weeks, 3 months down the road. We just sucked it, and we had our dogs, so we could take our dogs. It was easy to travel. Now they've buggered it up with Brexit. It's not Brexit's fault, it's the French's fault, because they've got all this extra criteria. They're just making it awkward. They're making us pay for voting to leave. And I did vote to leave, despite having a house over there. I took my chances. So this couple came home. I couldn't believe it. I heard about them coming home. And I asked a mutual friend, I said, my God, that's really shocked me. Why have they come home? He had a health scare. Neighbours were out. She had to ring for an ambulance. In Austria, it's parochial. They do not speak much English. You have to communicate in German. And she didn't have the German as her husband is struggling for breath on the floor. And she was a nurse. So if that wobbled them that much that they came home, you have to look at all angles. The grass is not always greener. And I'm not saying that to put you off. People on the thread, I'm looking down now. Oh, New Zealand, it's a great place. It's open space. Yeah, geographically, beautiful place. But you did have Jacinda Ardern. And she was hardcore during lockdown. She locked people up for testing positive. And now she's working with our student Prince Numbnuts. What's he called? William. The only saving grace he's got is a good-looking wife. And you've got the King of England, who's more net zero than anybody I know. So it doesn't always correlate that moving on somewhere else is going to work. Canada, who'd have thought? I would have had Canada down as one of my go-to places. They speak English, it's full of mountains, I can ski, they have better summers than us. It's a pretty well-off place. I'd be all right there. But would I? With Justin Trudeau, with her in charge? I don't think so. So you have to get a new government for the place to work. And you have to think about all of it. So don't ever sit there thinking that... Don't feel trapped. Don't sit here thinking if you could go, you would. What you've got to remember is, look at Nigel Farage's face. Does he ever look down and miserable? No, he never looks down and miserable, does he? Whatever's going on, even when he's getting a right roasted on Question Time, he's never miserable. His other MPs are never miserable. And that's the kind of government they would offer, a positivity. Positivity attracts people to you because people want to be around positive people. You know, I do. I want to be around someone who makes me feel good. I want to be around someone who shows me that, hang on a minute, I've got all this positivity in my life and I didn't even know. Little things like, it's all right looking at going overseas, but if you're only 10 minutes drive away from your favourite grandchild, it's got to be a massive plus point, hasn't it? Don't overlook all the huge benefits you have in your existence. And the easiest way to do it, I'm droning on a bit now, the easiest way to do it is your checklist. In selling, it's called a Washington clause. George Washington used to do it when he was dealing with adversaries. Get a piece of A4 paper, draw a line down the middle, and write down all the things that you see as a deficit. And then the other side, you fill in all the contra to it. He used to do it when he was selling something. He'd list all the positives and then get his adversary to list the negatives, and his positives would always outweigh it. It's a clever idea, but it's also quite a good psychological tool, because if you write down like, right, net zero is not going to affect me, not any more than anyone else, and not any more than anyone else in a European country. So you list the stuff, and the common denominator for all of us is energy prices, the price of food, in which case we can support our farmers for that, can't we? So it's not as bad as you think. It really isn't. I have to do these talks with my husband, so I'm not just doing this for some bloody clickbait video. I'm doing it because I see it in people's messages. Oh, June, you know, it's all doom and gloom. No, it isn't doom and bloody gloom. It's just a set of tards in power that will only be in power a short length of time. And the best they can offer us as a replacement to the goon we've got is Wes Streeting, God help us, with a 500 vote majority. He will be out just like a gaslight. His batteries will want changing soon enough. We are not stuck with these people forever. We do have a credible alternative. It's growing all the time. Do not ever think that there's not so much work going on behind the scenes with reform. They're starting branches. They're getting people lined up to help campaign. And I'm not even a member. I don't say this because I want you to believe in a party. I say this because we need change. That's the only option. These other batshit crazy small parties are going nowhere. Very nice people, but unfortunately delusional. And what I don't want people to do is waste the time thinking that you have no hope because you live in Great Britain. Great Britain, mainly, in the main, most of its places are very, very nice. It's got some lovely seaside places. It's got some great countryside, pretty little villages. People will want to keep that going. And we have to fight the politicians that want to take it away from us. And we can do that because there's more of us than there is of them. And we just need a show of presence. Never as the phrase of, if voting was any good, they wouldn't let you do it. That has never been more moot in my entire existence, because we do have to take back control, and the only way we can do it is putting people where the legislation's made. And we can do this. We can.